Welcome to our inaugural executive webinar series. What better way to start it today than with Steve Dawson of Pfizer? We have a thrilling conversation that we're planning on having around business intelligence and culture change, how to create adoption, and how to really create data accessibility within your organizations. Steve, thank you for your time. Awesome to have you here. Maybe you can start by introducing yourself and your role at Pfizer.
Hello, Phong. It's great to be with you today for the first episode in this series. So my name is Steve Dawson. I am the digital finance lead at Pfizer. I've been at the corporation for 24 years, originally started back in London. My background is accounting and finance, and I held various different finance roles in the UK office. From there, I really transitioned into the technology organization, and today I am the digital finance lead for the company. So in my role today, I am responsible for the finance systems that support all of our financial reporting requirements, our financial planning requirements, and also various different corporate finance functions as well. So for example, corporate audit, tax, and treasury.
That's awesome. So you're at the intersection of technology and finance. And, you know, as a finance practitioner myself, I know the importance of consolidating information, accurate reporting, transparency to the organization, especially a publicly traded one. As you sort of took over the role of digital finance, what were some of your primary objectives, and what were some obstacles you saw as you took on the job?
Yes, of course. So our digital finance journey really started at Pfizer a couple of years ago. And our initial objective was to really transform ourselves from a company that leveraged Excel in order to create and distribute its management reports across the organization, instead to a company that really saw data as a corporate asset and subsequently tried to consolidate that data, put a structure around it, and also improve visualization and reporting and analytics so that we can provide improved insights to our business leaders much quicker than we have done in the past. In addition to that, we were supporting a couple of different transformation initiatives across finance. First one was that we were trying to really transition into a self-service reporting mode so that our business leads can access the finance data that they need when they need it on multiple devices, and in doing so really reduce the burden on our finance colleagues. And in addition to that, we were really looking to upskill the organization with regards to the financial reporting capabilities that we had. So for example, we were looking to incorporate things like natural language generation to support automation of financial commentaries, and introduce things such as interactive chatbots so that business leaders can interact with the dashboard and ask questions real time, such as what are the net sales in France?
Yeah, it's when you talk about 30,000, reports and Excel files and the manual work associated with it, I think that resonates with a lot of people in the finance organization, and they probably envy you for taking the plunge, if you will, and trying to move to more automation and transparency and better systems. Like, where did you start? I think that's where a lot of people were like, okay, I want to do this, but how do I start?
Of course. So the first thing we did, Phong, was to identify and confirm the business requirements. So for us, that's when we realized that we needed to visualize our revenue and P&L dashboards that we send to our senior leaders on a monthly basis. From there, we really focused on the end users and how they wanted to use these reports and the level of data that they needed to see within them. And that's when we realized that there were three very different user personas. So the first group that we have is our executive leadership team, who need to see very high level financial data on a monthly basis in a common currency. The second group that we have is our intermediate level of senior leaders who need to see data for a specific region, perhaps a specific business unit, maybe with a local hierarchy within that dashboard to support the reporting. These reports typically monthly basis in a common currency as well. And then the third type of group that we have was the individual markets. So this is our country managers and our sales and marketing teams that operate within those countries. And they need to see very detailed information. So it's typically going to be delivered to them on a weekly basis. They're going to want to see data at local currency. In addition, they'll want to see units sold, units returned. So it's a very detailed type of report that they need to see. So that for us was a really valuable experience, because that's when we determined that we needed to build 3 very different types of dashboard. Next thing we did was focus on the data. So we had to identify the different inputs required to support those 3 dashboards. And then we had to make sure that they were stored within a single data repository with a common data model framework attached to that as well, so that the different types of data could be used consistently across the dashboards that we were building now, but also in the future as well. And then lastly, it was a case of focusing on the technology. And this is where we assessed 5 market leading BI solutions. And having done that analysis, that's when we determined that MicroStrategy was going to be the best tool to meet our requirements.
So that sounds like a pretty thoughtful process. So you went through a tool/vendor selection. You determined what the scope of reports were that you wanted to roll out and the associated metrics. And then you thought about the personas and the different kinds of users. So did all of that thinking and planning pay off? Where are you in the process, and how's it going?
It's gone very well to date, thank you. We've deployed 2 of the 3 dashboards that I spoke of. First one we deployed was the executive dashboard to our executive leadership team. It's been very well received. And then a few months later, we deployed our global dashboard to our regional and global business unit leaders. And in a couple of weeks, we will be deploying our final revenue and P&L dashboard to our country managers in our local markets. So far, so good. And the feedback to date has also been very encouraging, very positive.
That's awesome. So Albert's a sort of a celebrity nowadays, based on all the amazing things that Pfizer has done. Does he like the work you've done?
Yes, Albert's actually a very good user of the dashboards. He provided a lot of the original requirements that we subsequently baked into the design. And he's a model user who's subsequently encouraging other members of the executive leadership team to use the dashboards on their laptops, iPads, and also iPhones going forward as well.
You know, that's a great story in change management. And, you know, I get it all the time from a lot of our customers, right? How do you get people to adopt new tools and new dashboards and reporting? And top-down usage and sponsorship makes a huge difference, obviously. And getting someone who is willing to sort of state their requirements and what they need and is going to get hands-on is awesome. So, but that said, you know, a lot of times with new tools, with new processes, I'm sure there's also some resistance to change naturally in any organization. Have you encountered that also?
Yes, we have. I think it's inevitable that whenever you deploy a new dashboard in particular, that there's a novelty factor attached to it, and that can wear off in a couple of months if there isn't a strong business requirement for the dashboard and a strong push to actually use the data that's being surfaced in that particular report. So I think it's really key that in launching new applications to any type of business user, that we subsequently have a very strong change management and training program that really underpins the solution delivery.
Yeah, what are some of the other things you put in place? So change management, obviously, top-down leadership, engagement, endorsement. What are some of the other things that you put in place to overcome some of the adoption challenges that, as you mentioned, naturally happen when you're rolling out something new?
Well, first of all, I think it really starts with senior leader endorsement, and that can be in the form of town hall presentations or videos or email communications. But I think it's very important that the tone is set from the top. And once the solutions are subsequently deployed, that the executive sponsors subsequently model the required behavior that you're looking for, whether it's to use a reporting dashboard or to drive a particular behavior. In addition to that, I think it's really a very good idea to identify metrics that will help you track adoption or perhaps non-adoption, but it will really shine a light on who is using the dashboard, what particular reports or worksheets they're using, maybe even what types of queries they're running, so that you can subsequently improve the application, but also ask questions as to why certain users or business units aren't using the dashboard, so it can subsequently be addressed, and the real value of the investment subsequently can be improved upon.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple of really interesting points there, Steve. One is creating a culture where people are talking about data and using sort of that single source of information. And we've seen that a lot, right? You know, you can't bring PowerPoint, you can't bring Excel, you can't bring a PDF to a meeting about data. You should bring what everyone's looking at. And then also setting objectives and metrics based on some of these KPIs, if you will. There comes a shift in time where you go from changing the culture to support rolling out a data initiative to when that data initiative starts to actually change your culture. And maybe you can talk about that, because I know you're starting to see that a little bit, which is, the culture of Pfizer being changed to be more data driven. I would love to hear what you're seeing there and what you've been successful in doing.
So I think it's a combination of push and pull techniques, and I'll use a couple of examples to illustrate. In a first example, if we think about a new dashboard that we are trying to implement across the organization, as I said previously, I think it's very important that senior leaders model the behavior that you're looking to achieve. And in this case, it's to use the dashboard and subsequently incorporate it into monthly or quarterly business review meetings. Soon after that, I've also found it's extremely beneficial if you can remove the prior method of delivering that information. So in this example, perhaps Excel reports and lots of them. If you can retire those Excel reports, you really then drive your end user to the new dashboard that's been created. In the second example, I'm thinking of a predictive forecasting type project, and in this particular in this particular scenario, really what you're looking to change is the business process. And in order to change a business process, what I found is that you really need to run the legacy solution in parallel with the new solution. And maybe that needs to be done for a couple of months as well to really prove out that the new solution is working, that the new solution is as accurate, if not more accurate than the prior solution. And in that case, if you can really identify metrics that can be used to demonstrate that the new solution is as accurate, that is extremely powerful. And it's an example of where facts really do become your friends. When you can reference those increases in forecast accuracy, that then becomes the driver for subsequently initiating, adopting the new solution, and over time retiring the legacy solution.
Well, I love this idea of the pull, which is you let people have the legacy solution and you put the new solution side by side, and over time demand drives to the new solution. Makes a lot of sense. Does that mean that you took 30,000 Excel reports away from the organization also at the same time?
Well, we haven't been able to retire those reports just yet, but I think we will be doing so in the very near future. And in making that change, I hope that our business adoption metrics continue to improve month over month.
Okay, so you've put in the cultural change, you have people adopting the new solutions, it's starting to sort of flip over, which is great. How do you keep that momentum going? Because as you mentioned, there's sort of the honeymoon period where everyone's excited about the new reports and dashboards and analytics, and then there may be a lull period. How do you keep this going over time?
Well, I think it's very important that the underlying change that you're looking to drive across the organization is really incorporated into a much larger organization or divisional strategy, because really that then becomes the enabler for the change that you're looking to implement. I'll give you an example. Here at Pfizer, a couple of years ago, our business technology organization was rebranded as a Pfizer digital organization. And with that, there were very specific objectives and metrics related to different initiatives and levels of automation that we were looking to achieve across the organization. So as we embarked upon that, created many different initiatives that link back to the core objectives, the underlying strategy really helped us to explain why we were looking to implement these changes across the organization, and allowed us to really reference the culture that Pfizer was looking to adopt.
So at some point, you'll have great adoption between the executive team and the finance team. And really then the next step is to get out to the entire Pfizer organization with data analytics to help run the company. At MicroStrategy, we've started to try to solve this, we'll call it the last mile problem with hyperintelligence, which gets insights to users who need them, when they need them, without having to make them dig into dashboards and reports. What are some of your tools that you're using to get broader adoption of data across the entire organization?
Well, one of the key advantages that I think we have at Pfizer is that 99% of our legal entities and global markets are using a single instance of SAP, which is really a very, very powerful asset for us, because that foundational investment has subsequently allowed us to really consolidate all of those underlying transactions within a single business intelligence solution. There's obviously a lot of connectivity between the transactions, and being able to drill from, for example, purchase orders into particular invoices, or even from sales orders into sales invoices and the associated shipments. So that's a great source of wealth in terms of the data that we have at our disposal. In addition to that, Pfizer's also investing heavily in data lake technologies, and we're doing that primarily so that we can also integrate the ERP data that I just mentioned with non-ERP data. So, for example, HR data from our Workday application, perhaps clinical trial information from the systems that our research and development organization use. And along the way, we use a variety of different cloud solutions in order to store that information and to subsequently build transformation layers on the top, so that we can add in calculations and in some ways streamline the information that's presented in different reports and analytical solutions.
Great. And what about self-service analytics? Where do you see that coming into play? And what are the challenges, and how do you overcome them?
Well, from what I've seen within Pfizer, it's very important to build a common data model that really allows the transactions and associated data to be stored in a common way, because without that, users can misinterpret the information, and that can cause problems when it's misused and incorrect data is reported to senior leadership. In addition to that, I think that it's very easy to get overwhelmed with dashboards, in the same way that when we started to use Microsoft Teams or the box storage applications, it's before you know it, you typically have too many boxes, too many teams. It's difficult to find information. And so I think that as we build new dashboards and we really kind of build up that momentum, I think it's very important to think about how you are going to store those dashboards and how they get surfaced to your end users so that they don't get lost in the myriad of dashboards that are being deployed across an organization. And then lastly, I think security is extremely important, really, because you can fill your data lakes with millions upon millions of transactions, but just because they're in that data lake, it doesn't mean that anyone who has access should be able to see those underlying transactions. So I think it's equally as important, and particularly to build confidence and trust with our business leaders to build security so that they know that their underlying data is being stored in a safe and secure manner.
Yeah, we've seen that too. A lot of times people become the victim of their own success, and you end up dealing with proliferation of dashboards and dossiers and libraries, and then starting to have to organize and curate over time. So it's great to start thinking about that as a next step. Well, Steve, I think a lot of folks who are listening are probably pretty interested in what transformation you've been able to enable at Pfizer and the journey that you've been through in the last year. So I thank you for sharing that. We're now in our lightning round session of the discussion, and I'm going to just ask you a few very quick questions on tips that you might have for a senior leader who's looking to learn from you and replicate or emulate what you've done at an organization that's really known and has a tradition for R&D and for innovation. So a few things I'd like to go through. First of all, if someone's just trying to modernize legacy reporting practices, as 30,000 or even 10,000 or 3,000 Excel reports, and they might want to modernize it, what tip would you give them?
So I think it's important to consider the people, process, technology factors, and we'll start in reverse order. So with regards to the technology, obviously each organization needs to pick the tool that's the best fit for them. And having done a in-depth analysis of the tool sets that were out there, that's when we at Pfizer Finance determined that MicroStrategy was the best fit for us. From there, from a process perspective, I think it's extremely important that you focus on the data. And for us, that meant pulling it into a single repository, making sure that it's a data set which is fully reconciled, because obviously there's no value whatsoever in incorrect data. And then lastly, we found it to be invaluable to consider user personas. So think very long and hard about your end users, place them front and center with regards to the dashboards and reports that you are building. Think about how they need to access those reports, how they need to interact with them, the level of detail that they need. And if you do that, I guarantee that the reports that you build are going to be a lot better as a result.
Excellent. Perfect advice, not just because of the first half, but the second half of what you said too. What about democratizing data? Someone really wants to get data out to the organization and federate and democratize it. What advice do you have there?
Well, as mentioned previously, I really think it's important to adopt the common data model. It's not an easy thing to do. It takes time. It also takes money as well in terms of the underlying investment, but it will generate significant returns on the back end. In addition to that, very important to ensure that the data is secure, because the problems of the data being misused, misreported downstream are much worse, and subsequently avoid the overload of dashboards as well.
Yeah, those are super important points. Everyone wants to share data transparently and to democratize, but you have to think through their robust security model so people only see what they should have the right permissions to see. Excellent point there. And just broadly, driving, managing, sustaining change. What are your key takeaways?
So I think it's very important that the underlying change that you're looking to implement is really part of a broader organization or divisional strategy, because that then becomes the enabler for the change. I think it's imperative to have senior leader support from the beginning and to help drive the business adoption. I think it's important to quantify, publicize the successes, be transparent in the areas that you need to improve upon, and to make sure you identify and track those metrics going forward, because those facts really become your friends in the future, and it will lead you to optimize and improve the solutions based upon those facts that are being surfaced in your reports.
Well, great. I mean, what amazing parallel successes, right? Pfizer R&D finds, the vaccine for COVID-19, and Pfizer Digital finds the solution to reporting challenges throughout the organization, especially in the finance area. So, what's your encore? What you got planned next for you and your team this year and beyond?
Well, first of all, we hope to carry on the good work that we've done for the last 18 months and actually scale and expand that to cover other divisions within Pfizer. To date, we have primarily focused on the commercial division, so we'd be looking to extend this capability to our manufacturing, research and development, and also enabling functions teams. In the second half of the year, we shall be upgrading to MicroStrategy's 2021 release and taking advantage of the new features and capabilities that are available within that particular upgrade. And then lastly, we will continue the good work that we've done with regards to building in customizations to the dashboards in order to deliver financial information quicker to our business leaders so that they can make improved decisions and have improved insights upon which to run the business.
Well, that sounds like you have your hands full and a pretty ambitious agenda ahead. Steve, thank you for your time. Fantastic conversation, enlightening to see what you've been able to do really in a pretty short period of time, and really excited to see what you have coming next too. So thank you. Appreciate the partnership and appreciate everything you've done with us.
Thank you very much for having me today, Fong. I really appreciate our partnership and your ongoing support, and look forward to working with you and the team going forward. So thank you.